Hello. Today I'm taking a look at a wine from the Loire Valley. This is a Vouvray. It's from a producer called Bernard Fouquet, and it's Cuvee de Silex 2021. Now, Bernard Fouquet runs the Domaine, or ran the Domaine d'Aubuisieres. However, this isn't actually labelled as Domaine d'Aubuisieres, and normally Cuvee Silex is a wine produced under that label, so we'll come to that anyway. On the label, this is described as being sec, but the descriptive notes I've got describe this as sec tendre, i.e. slightly off-dry, I believe. Domaine d'Aubuisieres is a 33 hectare property, and they have two soil types throughout the vineyards that they have there, 75% of which are limestone and clay soil type, and they're mostly on the hillsides overlooking the Loire River. The balance is a siliceous clay, which is generally found on the edges of the plateau. And this Silex, flinty element to the soil, is quite good in terms of retaining heat throughout the day and passing that back to the plant. So particularly in cool vintages, it can be a benefit to ripening. So it gives a particular style to the wines. Now, the Vouvray appellation was created in 1936, at which stage what became Domaine d'Aubuisieres was Château de Girardières and the Clos de Pinchat, and these were run by somebody called Gérard Brully de Varennes. Now, in 1978, the domain was taken over by Bernard Fouquet. At that stage, it was 6 hectares inside, so Bernard devoted his life to growing the estate and acquiring additional high-quality vineyards in the area. Now, in 1996, Bernard founded Bernard Fouquet Trading, and that was to produce wines under a sort of a négociant label. So what he will do is purchase fruit or juice from growers and either vinify it with the team at Domaine d'Aubuisieres or at the growers' own facilities, but with the fermentation and the aging being monitored by Bernard's team of enologistes. Now, this wine is 100% Chenin Blanc, or Pineau de la Loire, as it can be referred to locally in Vouvray, I believe. Cuvee Silex is referencing the fact that it comes entirely from these siliceous clay soils. Now, the 2021 vintage might actually explain why this might not have been produced under the Domaine d'Aubuisieres label, because actually it's quite a challenging year for vignerons. It was quite an early start to the growing season, but then the vines were hit by frost, which did quite a lot of damage and reduced yields. Subsequently, in some parts of the Loire, not so much in Vouvray, but there were some hailstorms, particularly Pouilly-Fumé suffered really badly. There was humidity in the early summer, and then August, when the grapes needed to ripen, it was quite cool, so vintage was late and vintage lasted a long time. Yields for 2021 were only somewhere in the region of 40 hectolitres per hectare, whereas the previous vintage had been something like 52 hectolitres per hectare. So what I'm thinking has probably happened here is that maybe there wasn't enough fruit available from Domaine d'Aubuisieres, and maybe this has become, for the 2021 vintage, a négociant wine. There's nothing particularly in their own literature that expands on that, but that would seem to make sense. It's also to be noted that 2021 was the year in which Bernard Fouquet passed over his business to Charles Le Saffre, and Charles actually was the grandson of Gérard Brully de Varennes, who Bernard had acquired the property from in the first place, and he's somebody who's had a background in wine distribution, so it appears that the estate is in good hands. As far as the wines are concerned, the fruit was machine harvested. This is done to ensure freshness and that the fruit is all picked quickly. And you have to be quite careful with a machine harvester with Chenin, because it's quite a big grape and it can be damaged quite easily. So you, like I say, you need to be careful. Vinification went on in stainless steel tanks, and although the Domaine does use oak for some aging, the Cuvee Silex ages simply in stainless steel. There's no note about lees aging, and I would assume, being a Vouvray, that malolactic conversion was blocked. I think we'll probably see that in the tasting. So that would keep the acidity good and fresh, but it would also prevent other flavours from masking the aromatics of the Chenin Blanc. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? Looking at it, it has a medium to pale yellow colour. Swirling it, has 12.31% alcohol. It just says 12 on the label. The notes tell me that's 0.31. It is clinging to the glass, but it's not actually forming tears at all as it slides back down the sides there. Oh, maybe just, but Yes, so not a particularly viscous wine anyway. And the aromas, let's see what we make of those, shall we? The aromas are fresh and they're quite typically those of Chenin Blanc. There's an almost sort of grapefruity, lemon pith, lifted almost sort of sharpness. There are waxy notes. There's quite a pungency. And there may just be hints of sort of minerally hints from fermentation aromas. You know, just a touch of sort of gunpowder or wet stone, but really that's being overlapped by sort of grapefruity, maybe slightly pear notes. There's a little bit of ripeness in there. But yes, a complex aroma. So let's see what we make of the palate, shall we? On the palate, that certainly has a crisp, tart, acidic bite. So I'm absolutely certain there's no malactic conversion has gone on in there. There's none of the real sort of creaminess showing extended aging with lees. There is quite a lovely smooth note on the palate, so there might have been some minor time spent with fine lees, but it's not sort of dairy or creamy or yogurty notes coming through there. The fruit that you are seeing is in line with the aromas. There's a sort of a grapefruitiness, there is almost a sort of a sharp green gooseberry note, and then there's a waxiness. There's that very slight mineraliness, whether that's a toastiness or whether that's a sort of a wet stone gunpowder note. And the finish has this sort of rounded, waxy texture and the quite pungent green gooseberry type crispness coming through there. There's nice length of flavour. The wine would probably age for 4 or 5 years quite happily. It has good acidity. It's not particularly honeyed. There aren't necessarily notes of rotten fruit in there or anything like that. So it's lovely and clean. It's fresh. It's really quite pungent acidity. Makes it very refreshing to drink and gives good length. It's at best of mid-weight. You know, there is a roundness, but it's not got a huge alcoholic mid-palate. That's actually a sort of a quite elegant, concentrated, greenish fruit coming through there. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this of interest. If you've enjoyed the tasting, do please press the like button. If you have any comments, any feedback on the tasting, on the wines, do please leave those in the box below. Do please consider signing up and following us on YouTube. It would be fantastic to have your support there. But most importantly, do please make some time and come and join us for another tasting in the near future, won't you? Thanks again. Bye for now.